welcome back to Waste Some Time with Jason Green. I am Jason Green. Happy to be back with brand new interviews. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. And if you want to ask questions of the guests, of course, go to the description, click on Patreon. Okay, today we got a great guest I'm excited to have here, Nadir DePriest of the band London. London is one of those bands that maybe you know best because of all the famous members who've come and gone over the years. London was changing members before it was fashionable. Now it seems like everybody's had 80 members. Nikki Sixx, Blackie Lawless, Fred Coury from Cinderella, Lizzy Stradlin, a little one Slash, Steven Adler, almost all of Guns N' Roses, but they've all had some part of London. Maybe some of you remember the band best for the movie The Metal Years, but Nadir DePriest hasn't stopped. He's been making music, still out there rocking and still out there flying the London flag. So we're going to talk to him about all those things and more right after that. Just wanna waste some time with you. Time seems too good to be true. Nobody out there to waste time with you. All right, please welcome Nadir DePriest.
Hey.
Nadir, it's been a while.
It's been a while, Jason. Good to see you. Good to see you going strong, man. It's great that you're out there doing it still. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. First thing, Nadir, you don't age.
No, you do age. Yeah. You most definitely age.
Maybe you feel it, but you don't look it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go with that, so, yeah, I mean, I try to keep myself healthy as much as I can.
Yeah, and I think you got some good genes. Yeah, I think you got some good family genes as well.
Probably, and been a real good boy for a while now.
Yeah, but you've been clean living for a while, so that probably helps.
Yes, it's great. It's very good for us guys at our age, and I think that the having to get full rest, full sleep. I think it's been one of the key things for as far as for me, sleeping, which I didn't get a whole lot back in my crazy times, and just a lot of water and fun and music and entertainment, and don't rot.
This is like the sequel to the Metal Years, the follow-up. Back then, it was live fast and be as wild as you can. Now it's make sure you drink water.
Yeah, completely demented person there trying to say all this, and it all seemed to garble out completely like the opposite way it should have been. But I had a good time, so I can't complain. That's what made me, I think, who I am now, by having to go through all those turbulations and falling quite a bit, to be able to get back up and just keep going, and it makes you grow. So you need to fall to grow,
Yeah, well said. It's been a wild ride for you, obviously. A lot of people talk about the Sunset
Strip. Fun.
Yeah, a lot of people talk about the Sunset Strip and the bands from that time, but a lot of them are talking about later. Most of them are talking post-Metal Years, 87, 88. I don't think everyone realizes that the beginning of London, and you weren't there at the beginning. The band was founded by Nikki Sixx and Lizzy Gray, and that's going back to 1978. This is one of the
around 78, 79. Yes.
This is one of the images that I think people have seen the most of London. This is an old poster for the Starwood with Nikki still in it.
That was the show I was at. I actually had to sneak in to go see that show because I was underage, and the line was all around the corner up on Crescent Heights. And, it was hard to get into a place like that when you're 16. I don't know exactly how I managed to get in without getting my ass kicked. And so I got in, and I got to see this show and another show. But this was the one that was more penetrable to me, looking back now, because this is actually the poster I believe that Nikki's using on the dirt. So he must have been, really conscious about what he wanted to put up on that, and I believe this is the poster he used.
Yeah, how funny that you were at that show And a few years later, you would be fronting that band, a different version of that band. But Lizzy Gray would stay. So the question that I have about this is everybody talks about the beginning of London and Nikki Sixx, and then obviously he's going to go to Motley Crue. But what were you doing at that time? We know you were around 16 years old. What was your life like?
Well, no, I actually was around I was a drummer in Pasadena, California. So I was around that Van Halen scene. We would go listen to them in the alley, and my friend lived on the other side of 1881 Las Lunas, which is their address over there. And I happened to be going to Pasadena High School and lived up New York Drive. And my friend was a singer, and I was a drummer, and he thought he was David Lee Roth, and we were just kids, and that's how I got to get a taste of all of that stuff, to get to that serious point, because it was 78 for them, Long Beach Arena, they got signed at the Starwood, Mo Austin, when the president of the record company gets up on stage and says, this is my new band. And, it was really impact on people, I mean, for me, it was amazing to see something like that, So for me, that time was all about getting it together. Don't fuck up, do something. But I think that, that because it was changing it was that new wave music thing that was going on at the same time. I got a little ahead of my time and went and joined a band called Exude, which was got a lot of play on K-Rock at the time. And I was the drummer. I got a record with them at 17 years old. And there was a guy named Mo Austin that was the president, I believe, of, I think it was Boardwalk Records. I can't remember right now. It's been a long time. But he said, you could be a really great singer if you get it together. He goes, you got the voice, and you got that look. He goes, so, that really got me thinking. I don't want to be schlepping all these fucking drums. The singer always gets all the fun. Mm-hmm. And I think I can do this. So I went and joined a band in Orange County called Thunderbolt. They were older guys, and they were really super tight. And they played The Who. And, but they were really like together. They've been playing for years. So they were like really tight, and they expected you to be that way with them. But I was just a kid, and I was singing, Judas Priest. And, I was, singing a lot darker, screaming really high. I had a really high range. So it was, my path was not Roger Daltrey.
Yeah.
So I learned from that, and, and got fired.
What was why did you get fired? Too dark. Okay.
Because I was singing songs that were darker. The lyrical content was really like, for them was, they were older, we don't get full again. And, all those kind of songs, but they were, they liked that kind of music. They had some covers, but, it was not where I was going, but I learned a whole lot from them. I learned to be tight. I learned, what to expect from a guitar player. And these guys were like always in a garage rehearsing, and they almost sounded like they were on a stadium because they would perform and look ahead, and they were tight, and they would look at you and give you that nod. And that's quick learning for me. It takes years for you to get to grasp things, unless, you're just so badass. But there was a lot of things that you learn from bands with guys that are older than you. And from there, I like I said, I got fired, and I ended up in a band called Vertigo. From Vertigo, it was a lot more Van Halen-ish. It was easy for me to have fun with that, but it was still not where I wanted to be. And I got a message, that London needed a singer, and that Lizzy, wanted to see if we can meet. And it just went on from there, and the rest is history.
They had been through a lot.
So like, think about all that shit that he went through from 79 on, or 78 on, with Michael White, Nigel Benjamin, and all these other singers that he had, and I ended up landing in 84. So for me, the first year I landed with London, it was the first year London got a record deal,
Yeah, absolutely.
After all those years.
Yeah, and we should mention Blackie Lawless came in and played bass for a minute there, before you came involved. After Nikki went So
Right. He was with Lizzy doing Sister. They were doing, they were really good together. I think that what happened was that London, when I saw London from that poster that you see there, you could see the package, man. Even as a kid, you could see them. They looked like, caricatures, lifelike in front of you right there. And, you can see that there was something there, but it was not the greatest sounding group at the time. To me, it sounded, like a fun band, but it wasn't like if you were to watch, like Montrose or Pat Travers at that time or Van Halen, you know what I mean? Or something like that. The band was just a party band. It was more looser, but that was very, very marketable. It was just that, I think it was just a whole time thing, a whole timing thing for that.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's some serious players at the time out there. George Lynch was playing with the Boys. Their singer eventually played with London as well for a little bit. Randy Rhoads is out there. Eddie Van Halen is out there. You're living at a time and getting to see bands that become icons. It's an amazing.
Yes, most definitely. But you didn't know that. That's the thing, You're just traveling in this little circle of musicians, of things, and you're younger, and they're going that way, and you're like going, oh my God, they're going that way. There, look what's happening over here, and so it was great to watch. Let's see, Terry Kilgore, a really great guitar player from Pasadena, California, which was Eddie Van Halen's friend. At the time, and he even played guitars with David Lee Roth. Just an incredible guitar player, and it didn't go any further than that. Talent came out of Pasadena. Like I said, Randy Rhoads was the Quiet Riot. I used to see Quiet Riot in backyard parties. Smile, Snow, a la carte. Just like an array of different bands, and looking at things going, wow, man, this is fucking brilliant. This is amazing. You look back at that, you're not get that. You're never going to get that.
No. At the time, you're probably thinking that, there'll be this caliber of players forever. But it doesn't happen that way.
But no, the thing was that there was a lot of great players back then, and there was so much, talent, but not everyone went off and did the Van Halen thing or the Randy Rhoads thing, or not everyone got the big deals. And this is in the 70s, so for me it was something new, and I was just a young kid. But for them, it was quite the career movement, and it was the future. And who would have ever thought that you were going to be around this type of people now that you look back?
Yeah, absolutely. 1986 this is released. Excuse me,
85.
85, yeah. And so this is, like you said, big break for London finally. After kicking around and a lot of members, here comes the first record.
That's the first record, yeah, right here. Look, Nonstop Rock.
Nice.
I got Big Boy Freddie right here.
Mm-hmm. Fred Corey of Cinderella.
See the big guy back there?
Fred Corey of Cinderella, pictured, didn't play on the record. Fred Corey had a history of that happening, unfortunately.
No, he didn't play on the record. He was just, he happened to be available. Audition, I think it was for Ozzy or Dio, I can't remember. He was 17 years old, and I said, well, if he didn't get the audition, I'm looking for a drummer, so I'll fucking take him, and that's how that landed with him. But no, that's a guy named Bobby Marks, or Bobby Eisenberg. He used to play in a band called Sarge, and he's connected with that whole San Diego, Stephen Piercy, bunch of talented guys out there, and he was the one that played drums on this record.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I tour managed Stephen Piercy, and then also so there's that San Diego scene and there's that California scene, and a lot of the San Diego guys came over to the Hollywood scenes, and a lot of talented guys as well.
Yeah, there was a lot of talent coming from San Diego.
Yeah, and so here's the first record. You guys must be excited. You think, okay, this is it. We have a record out. Now tell me what it's like with the record being out.
Well, the record, you know, at the time, the record was a really low budget record. I believe we got I don't know, like a whopping $10,000 for Mike Varney.
Mhm.
But Mike Varney, you know, wanted London, so it was either you have a record. Look, I can go back and go, I have this now, or if I would have never done it, this would have never existed.
Yeah.
You know, so we took the deal, we did it, and it helped us quite a bit. I want, as you can hear, No Tell Motel and that screechy screams and all that stuff that I was doing. I was into that heavy metal shit prior to a lot of these new guys that are trying to do stuff from back in the day who are now a little too late to do it.
Mhm.
Uh, but I was into the metal and I liked that and I wanted this fucking crazy super dark thing going on, but it never really fizzled out. And Nonstop Rock gave me a chance to show my voice, and I had a lot of Germans and a lot of that Euro following, sending me letters. Japan, England, France. I would get a lot of you know, like envelopes with people sending me, you know, what kinds of cool caricatures and pictures of me, drawings and stuff like that, saying, "Oh, your voice and shit." It's like, wow, you know, I was like going, "Oh my god, do they like this?" I'm like, "This is great." You know, to me, it's the way I sound, but to other people, you know, I don't know how they hear things, you know. And at the
Yeah.
time, you know, it was working for me. It was great. So yeah,
And
Nonstop Rock was my first baby, and Lizzy and I got really drunk when we got the deal and we started doing our record. Yeah,
yeah. And
this
you're
record was done at Sound City.
legendary. Yeah. Yeah. How crazy
When
that
we
it
did
was.
it at Sound City, while Ronnie James Dio is in the other room doing the last in line, and we got to go in there while he was tracking and watch him hit those notes and do the samples with the keyboards and the last in line. We were actually right there smoking with him, watching him belt out after smoking the most potent weed you can ever find. It was wild. And Nonstop Rock was done there with Brett Newman, who's a house engineer there, and at another studio, and then Sebastopol, California, where Mike Varney sent us up there to mix it at Prairie and Sun Studios.
Yeah. And a lot of
So
history going on at that time.
a lot more than that, but yeah,
Yeah. Some of it we can't
just for
talk
that
about.
record.
People want to know, and you're probably sick of talking about it, but Guns N' Roses members, this is before the record. At one point, Izzy Stradlin, Steven Adler, and Slash all have some involvement with London. I think Izzy
We
more
went
than
through
the
London,
others.
yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that. There's so many fans who would be bummed if I didn't ask.
Well, I think everyone knows that that Slash went through London. Now, mind you, Slash went through London like soon before I got there, and I don't know how long he lasted with Lizzy, but he was in there with Lizzy. And now Steven Adler was there while I was there, and also Izzy, and Izzy was with us because, you know, he was like, I'm ready, let's do this. We did the street scene, we did a few shows, and so we thought everything was cool at that point. But there was a lot of partying going on. There was a lot of dysfunctional things going on, and Steven was not reliable at that point. Speedballing, he was doing all kinds of shit. Bob Welch was nodding out on the mixing console on the mobile unit, you know, and I'm not doing any of this shit. I'm clean. I'm straight. I'm like fucking, I'm ready to roll. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of things going on, and being that I was younger, you know, I got exposed to a lot of shit, and I got to see what really was going on. So it was quite enlightening.
Yeah, and Izzy was off for Hollywood Rose pretty fast. Eventually, Guns N' Roses.
Right, that happened because, you know, I think that we couldn't get, you know, we had a blowout. He, you know, things were not. It wasn't meant to be.
Yeah,
You know, at the time, you know, I don't want to sound like a dighead, but Izzy was not a really good guitar player. You know what I mean?
oh, he's frozen.
He was great, you know, rhythmically to jam and play. He loved Keith. You know, I mean, I worked with him on My Way, Your Way, Anything Goes Tonight. You know, I was there when the shit was going down, and for me, you know, we became friends, and we started hanging out following Joe Perry when he was doing the Joe Perry project at that point. And I thought we were going to last for, you know, for a while, but it just didn't work out. It wasn't in the cards, and it, you know, I don't think, you know, personality wise, it would have worked. He was a really mellow, calm dude, you know, and I was pretty fucking crazy at that point.
Yeah, different chemistries, and you never know where people are going to be going in their past.
At that time, yes. At that time, yes. There were different chemistries, and then we started partying, so it got good.
Yeah. Tony Richards also we should mention for original drummer for Wasp.
Yeah.
He was also in London for a bit.
Yeah, he was awesome. I wanted him to stay in the band. We got along way too good. You know what I mean? And but I can only say that the guy was a monster beater of the drums, man. He would hit those drums like there's no tomorrow. You could hear him at soundcheck without the mics on. And he was just, you know, one of those, you know, aggressive kind of players. To me, I like that type of personality on a drummer. I don't like, you know, those little jazz sticky guys that are playing triplets on anything and you know, and everything. I like solid backbeat drummers that can hit. At that time, that's what I you know, I thought that's what I wanted at the time.
Did he leave for Wasp?
What was that?
Did he leave for Wasp?
No, he was in Wasp. This is after Wasp.
Okay, this is after he was in Wasp. So Wasp let him go. They went with Steve Riley. How come he didn't?
That's when Riley came in after him, and I'm like, fuck, let's grab him. I just seen him at the Troubadour play, and he was a fucking monster. You know what I mean?
What went wrong?
I think we were just drinking too much, man.
Yeah.
We were drinking Bacardi 151 together, Bacardi and Coke 151, and you know, at 19, you know, 20 years old, you know, you start hitting that bottle like that. I would have not made it. I would have killed myself doing that. And he went off and he did his own thing. I think he was, you know, also probably had other things he wanted to do, and it worked out fine for me, you know, for me.
Yeah, he's become a bit.
We got Tommy Amato after that, though. I don't know if you know, Tommy Amato was the drummer for Lita Ford for a while back in that time, and Tommy was a great, very easy going guy on the pocket, and just everything was yes and cool, you know. And I like that kind of drummer, you know.
London always you always seem to land on your feet. You know what I mean? Someone would be gone. You would think, oh man, this is going to be it. But somehow you and Lizzy, especially the core, would keep that going. The following year, 1986, Don't Cry Wolf. I enjoyed this record cover. Where was this cover photo taken?
Okay, well, that cover photo was taken by Clive McLean. He was the staff and senior photographer for Larry Flint Publications.
Yeah, he's a legend.
He actually had a mega studio in Culver City, and was friends with Larry Flint's wife, Althea Flint. And Althea said, you know what? We got this great studio out there. Fuck, all they do is just shoot women all the time. You know, if you want to use it, you're welcome to it. And I'll just tell Clive to put it in the books and just go ahead and do that. And at the time, Lon Friend was an assistant at the time. He wasn't he was just a young starter guy at the time. So, but he wasn't around at this period when we were doing this. And we actually hired the wolf. Those two wolves are actually real wolves. They were from a movie called In Company of Wolves. So they brought in trainers and trailers, and they had to build a platform for me to stand on that you can see there. And if you look at the wire, if you look at the wolf, because I have a different cover from back then,
Hold on.
And this one,
Hold on, let's take a
okay,
look.
this is the different cover of it.
I think you
This
got a
is,
wolf in
what
your
we-
back. I think you got a wolf
And
in your
then
back.
this wolf here, this is another second cover. I made it like a double cover. And right here you'll see there's a steel wire that goes down to an eye hook on the ground, which was to hold this fucking thing down, because the wolf was, when you see a wolf in person, at least these Siberian wolves, they're massive, man. They're like not like a dog. People, they're like, no. When you see them, their height, the legs, the jawline opens up differently. Hey, the jawlines opens up differently, and they're just gorgeous animals. And they all had sticks with leather pouches with a sticker cross and meat in pouches, and 3 guys around him and always watching him, not making any moves that'll scare him, and to let them know when I was ready, and then they will make him growl. You can see those are all natural growls of his. They just tickle his ear with this feather, and it would piss him off. He was just fucking snap and go at the camera, but he's wired, so he's not trying to hurt you, but you know.
Yeah, he's still a wild animal.
It was cool. It was the coolest thing ever, man. So yeah, Don't Cry Wolf was great. We were working in co-production with Kim Fowley.
That's
and,
right. Explain Kim
It
Fowley.
was a really great time with that.
Nadir, explain Kim Fowley to people who might not know. I mean, he's known for sort of discovering the Runaways and being in that scene, but maybe people
Well, he
don't.
was quite the guy back in the 70s. You know, he claims Nikki night. He claims that he wrote Alley Oop. Remember that song that goes Alley Oop? Oop. Kim Fowley claimed that, and then the producer that we were working with for Playa del Rock, Richie Potler, said that he was actually the guy that had worked on that song, and Kim Fowley didn't write that song. So it was really funny to, compare notes from these guys. But Kim Fowley was notorious for the Runaways and all that, rock early. He was hanging out with with some really big names back in the day. Kim was a really unique character.
He produces for you. And even though he was a character, did he really know music? Was he a producer?
No. No, I'm gonna catch shit for this.
He's passed.
What it was is that Kim Fowley, it was a vibe, it was a personality. It was like you having, a mentor for your show. They can give you the vibe for it. He didn't really go, all right, we should take this verse, no. I just remember rehearsing, maybe 1 or 2 rehearsals with him prior to the recording session, and then he shows up at the studio, and I didn't know he was hypoglycemic, so he would order up all this food, and he would sit on the floor of Track Record Recording Studios, which was owned by Prince for a long time, and he was on the floor doing paper cutouts of newspaper quotes and things like that as he's listening to the band do tracking. But he wasn't like sitting on a chair going, we need to go back and check that sound, or we heard something out of key, or the guitar maybe a little out of tune, or whatever. So I knew from Playa del Rock, from Nonstop Rock, that I had to make sure that we did this correctly and did not fuck up because of what was going on. We didn't know that he was like that. We only found out when we got into the studio. But he did have a keyboard player, Mr. Carr, who brought in a Fairlight. Back then, for you to have a Fairlight, you needed to have a lot of money to rent that, because you had to get it from Light and Sound Design at George Lucas's studio and bring that rental and bring it into the studio. So all the sounds that you hear in Don't Cry Wolf are an actual Fairlight, and this guy was really super talented, and I thought he did a great job for it at the time. It was a period sound, you know, and it was really real sounding things. No, they didn't sound fake or processed. And anyway, so yeah, we paid attention, and as you can hear the guitar, listen to the mixes, how everything just comes together on fastest light and the effects in the background. I mean, we literally were there making sure that all of that was going to go through right. And the mixes, the mixes were not done by us or only, but they were actually done by Gene Marrow. You know what I mean? Gene Marrow actually was a assistant engineer at the time for Fair Warning. You know what I mean? So when he was working on Fair Warning, we were like grabbing him for Don't Cry Wolf, and you hear that heavy bass on there, and those heavy thumpy drums on there, and that was Gene Marrow's, which was great. We got a great rate on him.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's where Kim Fowley comes in. He has influence. He's got a little money. He's got a little. He's kind
That's
of a.
the thing. I couldn't find Gene Marrows. I couldn't find Mr. Carr. I would have never taken it to K Disc to get it mastered. For us, we were not focused on that because we didn't know exactly who would be the right person because everything was so fucking expensive. You know what I mean? It's not like we had a ball of money all the time, and this so happens that we had an investor, and I did have the money at the time. So I had the luxury to be able to get Kim, to be able to get the Fairlight, to be able to go to Sunset Sound Studios and get what's his name, Gene Marrows, to mix it, and so that's how that worked out.
And I'm sure that people felt like, especially someone like Kim Fowley, that London could be the next big thing. I think everybody thought that London is just on the cusp. It's coming. They paid their dues, and it's going to break through.
Ah, wow. Well, we thought that we were going to do something bigger than we would have, bigger than we would have, wanted it to be. But I think that there was just a lot of hate out there. There was a lot of, really bad vibe from people. We were not treated with respect, as far as when it came down to musicians, battles, comments, hate, players that right now, who are playing right now, who are still, in that set of mind, even at our age. I'm not as old as them. They're about 5 years older than me. I just turned 60 November 1st, just to be clear. So you hear it here now. And for me, it was, almost like you had to fight for your fucking band. You know what I mean? Like we had problems with, when we were on stage, let's say with Poison, they hated our fucking stage. We had a giant stage. There was a lot of competition. There was a lot of people who, had certain things that they didn't have, or they had things that you didn't have. And it was kind of bizarre back then because it was very competitive. There was always 2,000 working bands a night in Los Angeles. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In the area. So there was a lot of stage drama going on, a lot of, space, really, like who was going to headline, who was going to open. And there was just a lot of competitiveness back then. But it comes with the territory, and you're only, you're in the early 20s and you're on a mission,
Yeah. I had Jizzy Pearl on the show, and I think he said it best about that time, that it felt like they were giving away gold tickets, like Willy Wonka, and all the bands were getting the gold tickets and getting signed and running out. And as you watched other bands get their break, you're starting to wonder, what about me?
Yeah, he should know. He was around that time. I remember him. Yeah. He knows exactly what was happening at that time. And there was just a whole lot of clones out there. You know what I mean?
Well, and you're performing with your band since 1984, a band that's existed since 1978, 79. And so it's got to be difficult when you see people coming out and doing things that you had been doing.
Yeah. It wasn't like a situation where I was like, pinned on it or anything like that. I think, if anything, Lizzy felt a lot more frustrated because he had already gone through several parts of London with 3 different guys, and then here I come in, you know, and then things start changing. But you know, eventually he got a taste of it, you know. But you know, he wanted to go his own, you know, his own way and do his own thing. Yeah, that time was. This is the best time right there. That picture right there says it all. He was just at his happiest time right there. Yeah, I mean, we did a really. We got along great, and we worked really hard, and we were both thriving for the same thing. I didn't know a whole lot of the history of London, you know, other than that I saw them on stage, and that was cool and all that, and I ended up singing for them. But once I was in it, it just became something like we were together 24 hours a day. I mean, we really meshed together quite well at the time. You know, I was young, and he wanted just to make sure that he could go to, you know, to the next level. And I like to believe that I brought that to him, you know, while he was in the band with, you know, Nonstop Rock. Because, you know, London had not had an album at all whatsoever, you know, and for me to be able to do an album with London for the first time, the first year I joined, and that was really cool for us. He was, you know, he was really happy. You know, we had a good time.
Lizzy Gray is one of those. He's become a bit of this legend, underrated probably on that scene. But most people know about him because of his involvement. He co-wrote the song "Public Enemy #1" with Motley Crue. Right, Nadir?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Lizzy was a great riff guy. You know, he Lizzy could. I don't know if it's cutting in and out, but
I have you fine. I can see and hear you
okay.
okay.
Yeah, Lizzy was great at riff and stuff. And when I joined, it was really different. He had to really change a whole lot of shit with him because his whole thing was that whole Mata Hoople deal, and he was still stuck in that whole English thing with the band London, and I guess there was a mission with the name London, you know, sticking to maybe that British invasion kind of thing, you know. But that's not where I was at, and as you can tell in Nonstop Rock, it was heavier than he was used to playing. So he was, you know, he was trying to work with me. He was trying to, you know, mesh into my deal, and I was trying to mesh into singing songs like Radio Stars and LA Jets. You know, it was really poppy shit.
Yeah. No.
You
No. I
know,
get
so
it.
for me, it was really cool to go that. But then when we got in the album, then that's when I sat down and with him and I said, listen, we need to stick to this thing here because this is working for us. We were getting a lot of positive thing from Nonstop, thanks to Shrapnel Records at the time. So we were just like, you know, glad that we were able to have, you know, a record deal with Shrapnel and Varney, and then move on and do another record deal on our own and finance it and go in there, and him being able to be how would I say, adaptive to the next wave of songs that we were working on. And we had really, Brian, Lizzy Gray, Brian West, Lizzy Gray, and myself were really the ones that put the grind into this machine because we wanted it to be right. And I think Don't Cry Wolf came out great. And we're really happy with the sound. Yeah.
Now I'm jumping ahead, but sadly, Lizzy passed away in 2019. He had a form of dementia, Lewy body disease.
Yes.
Were you still in touch with him at the end?
Well, you know, I haven't done an interview in a while, and Lizzy and I were talking about doing something. We were actually on the phone. He was in Las Vegas, and I was down in Mexico. And I told him this idea, you know, let's do this thing called the London Underground. And I want to do these songs. And he gave me a list of songs that he wanted to do. And these are songs that him and I, with Brian, used to do back in the original setup that we had together. we were actually going to record something because he wanted to go to LA and do it. And I said, no, dude, I got a drummer in Vegas. There's a studio there. You know, I think I wanted to go down to Counts, you know, and maybe track something there real quick in a day, you know, see where it goes with that, just to get the juices going. And we were talking, and then I told him, let me make arrangements if you want. And he goes, let me get back to you. And he got back to me like about, I don't know, a month later, and he told me that he wasn't doing so well, that there were some obstacles that he had, that he wasn't able to get, you know, things together to do this thing with the drummer. I said, well, I'll make it happen. I said, all you need to do is let me know, you know, when you're ready to do it and when you want to get together, and I'll go over there and make the moves. I'll make the arrangements. You don't have to worry about one fucking thing. And unfortunately, later, not long ago, weeks within that, he fell ill, and he was in, you know, in care all of a sudden out of nowhere, and he was clear as could be on the phone. You know what I mean? So I didn't understand how he went from being fine to dropping that bad, you know, and then, you know, it was very weird. He was so excited about it. How can you get so ill like that quick? So there was some, you know, some things there that, you know, that were kind of weird, but that's what we were planning to do, to get together and do these songs together. Yeah, I was definitely looking forward to that.
At least
we were there at his bed, you know.
Yeah, so you were with him, and
Sorry.
you were in contact with him at the end.
We Brian and I drove from Los Angeles to Las Vegas to, you know, to Final Care. You know, I shaved him because nobody was taking care of him correctly. I shaved his beard. I shaved all his growth. Gave him water. The dude was, you know, dying of, you know, of this terrible death, and it was just horrible to see him like that. But I went there with my phone, and I immediately played Radio Stars, the intro. Woo! And his voice goes, "That's rock and roll, man. That's me." You know, and that was it. That was the last time I saw him.
A brutal.
He died.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of the ending of a great guy.
Yeah, and a partner that you had in that business for quite some time. He would leave and do his own thing for a number of years, but at least you had some kind of closure. It's horrible to see somebody go that way, but at least you didn't have to say, "I wonder what would have been if I would have not reached out."
It took 20 years for that call. You know that?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Because we got together, we rehearsed for a live show, and this is about 12 years ago, and I ended up doing a rehearsal with him, you know, just really like sudden, and he decided that he didn't want to do the show with me at that time. Yeah, I never held that against him. So hearing from him, you know, prior to his passing was a really good closer for me and for him, and I think he wanted to speak with me anyway, because I think that we still had a connection. So it was very cool.
Yeah, I'm glad you spoke about that, because I don't hear so many people talk about that, and how his tragically how his life passed, and that you guys at least were in contact. Obviously, people want to know about the metal years. This was a lot of people's first exposure to the band London.
What do they want to know?
Well, for starters, how did you guys get involved in this documentary?
We got a phone call from New Line Cinema in regards to us being interested, if we were interested in being in this movie, you know, some kind of music documentary thing, you know. And we were like, you know, we were just like big horse. We were like, yeah. We'll do it. And we got paid, by the way. So it was kind of cool because we were not doing so good with money at the time. So the production staff, when they contacted us, they wanted us to come down and meet in person. And, you know, so we went down to the New Line Cinema office, which happens to be right next to Carney's on Sunset.
Right now you're frozen.
We were, we're being filmed, and involved in this big movie, but we didn't know that this was going to be like anything like. We just thought it was just another film. It was like almost like a Roger Corman thing. It seemed like for us because we were just, we were not like the main deal, and it was kind of like a lot of other bands and people from the street. So I thought it was just going to be like a news report thing, movie thing, But it turned out, that is now in the Academy of at LACMA. They recognize it as a classic now.
Yeah, it's amazing, and and you guys stand out. Maybe because you're young and a little crazy, but and full of energy. But it's your scenes stand out. It's this movie now. If you watch it, it's a bit dated. Obviously, you couldn't do the things that everybody did back then. People would, everyone would be canceled.
Yes, we were just too out of control for this. The society would not be. Fuck.
Very memorable. Very memorable scene. This was at the time of Rocky IV and Cold War and America versus Russia, and you capitalized.
Yeah, the Russian thing. Yeah.
You capitalize on it. Russian Winter. You before the song, you have a Russian flag. You attempt to burn.
I was actually, the government at the time kept us pissed off about the Russian situation, And when you're in a rock band and you're aggressive and all that, you got plenty of material to use, and nothing better than a Russian flag at the time. You know what I mean?
Was it your idea?
And it was not even a Russian, a Soviet fucking era, communist.
Was it your idea to do it?
It was just, we had a skull flag, and we were buying, I think, another flag to put on the side of the risers, and we're like, let's get a fucking Russian flag and burn it on stage. Fuck it. But I didn't know that you couldn't light them up quickly, and it was just.
It's a great. It's a great.
That was classic. How stupid you are not to know that, right? That was like amazing.
Yeah, there was no There was no test run. At the time, and so the flag,
they don't give you that.
Yeah. Do you still have the flag?
Yes, I do have the flag. I do have the same jacket put away somewhere up there. My mom had all that stuff. I don't know what condition it's in, but I've found some things, here and there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. One day maybe you should post some of it online, a little trip down memory lane for people.
One day I'll sell it online.
Yeah, well, that too. So the flag doesn't burn, but you guys have your homemade concussion bombs that do work, and they might work a little too well.
Yeah, we actually, Lizzy was really good at doing a lot of that kind of stuff. So I would be just, right behind and going, let's put more gunpowder. Fuck it. Let's go, more flash powder. Fuck it. And, it was so illegal at the time because we're making them with plywood, extension cords, steel wool, and coffee cans, empty coffee cans. And we just knew how to set them off. But we set them off, it only went off once, so it didn't get to work twice.
Mm-hmm.
You only got to do it once. So that was really important to us that everything went off at the same time,
Did you have to tell the venues
we would get big fucking flames, though?
It was insane. Did you have to tell the venues you were doing this?
I know. We would just put them up.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah. It was a different...
Yeah, I know. Gazzari's had a really high ceiling. It had an extremely high ceiling. So the deal with that was that we created a concussion bomb that blew the fuck out of the doors. Even the producers were in the control room in that Westwood One unit going, "You blew us the fuck out over here, man. That was great." And, the doors of Gazzari's came open. It was a big old scene. We got a lot of attention for being, that crazy, and I think there were some bands in that movie that didn't want us to be in it. And that was mentioned as that there were some forces that didn't want us in the movie. I said, well, that's great.
Well, and
that's great. Yeah.
Bands were struggling to get noticed. They
wanted to be there where you're at. And if they couldn't be where you're at, they wanted to shit on what you did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I like how you guys talk. You know, people didn't have a lot of money. People were struggling. You talk about you know, you couldn't show your home because you didn't know where you live. You know, people
Yeah.
and you know back then you had you know girls drive you places and get you clothes or food, or, you know, or friends and fans.
Or go back home. It's not like we were starving for you know, because we didn't have anything. It's just, you know, I didn't want to go back to my mom's house and go back again and go back to school and, you know, and push that agenda. I was wrapped up into the Hollywood so much that, you know, I was willing to give it up. I was willing to eat 10-cent hot dogs and 25-cent Cokes over at the food mart. You know what I mean? So we were good with it. We were all in the same state of mind.
You learn to survive, and like you said, everyone is trying to survive in the same way. I found the funny thing you said, and I wanted you to tell me about it. You were saying you guys used to party at the Holiday Inn at the Walter Lantz Suite. Walter Lantz is the creator of Woody Woodpecker. You got to tell me about the suite.
Well, it was the band I was in. I was in a band called Vertigo, and that band, if I would have had that crew in London, it would have been great. This guy had a beautiful, brand new cube truck with 5 guys, all strong, with all the shirts that match. And I literally had to do nothing. It was amazing. And every time that we had a gig, the dad had a hookup at the Holiday Inn right there in Highland, and he could get the Walter Lantz suite for him, you know, for practically free. So yeah, man, I actually have pictures somewhere at that suite, because it had Woody Woodpecker right on the door. I mean,
how cool, yeah. History.
Yeah. So we had a great time. You know, you're looking at it as a 21-year-old looking at this, going, "Oh my God, I used to watch this shit as a kid. Here I am, fucking thrashing the fucking partying it up."
If Woody Woodpecker had any idea what you guys were doing in that room.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, that's right. Or if Woody had just went to the police, none of this would have happened, or whatever the line was. But so anyway, a lot of history, and you guys, like you said, when you make that movie, The Metal Years, you don't know what it's going to be. You were probably happy to make a few bucks and be involved in something.
Well, seeing yourself in a big screen at the Cinerama Dome will give you a big boner.
That's right. The Cinerama Dome was the premiere of that movie, which is now closed in LA.
That's
but
right.
It was a giant dome, massive screen.
I showed up in a whole vinyl outfit with 2 girls and a limo and a manager. At the time, there was my manager, apparently, more like carrying the party materials. And who was there? What's his name? Nicolas Cage and Johnny Depp were there with their disco cuts. You know, it was really cool because there was all these young people there. You didn't know who they were. And then I look back and somebody goes, "Look, it's them. They were at the Cinerama Dome when you were there." I'm like, "Oh, wow. I would have never known who they were." So it was cool, you know. I even took my grandma to watch it. She was ecstatic about it.
Yeah, you guys, you know, you're always sort of knocking at the door, but still doing fun things and creating a fun legacy. Hollywood Boulevard 2 is a movie starring Ginger Lynn. Ginger Lynn was trying to cross over out of adult movies. She every now and then would be in some sort of B movies, Corman-esque things. And so you guys, I think the deal was they would make a music video for you. This was very common in those movies. They'd make your music video.
No, you know, right. But they weren't making a music video. The deal here was that, you know, New Line Cinema, not New Line Cinema, Concord New Horizons. I'm sorry, I'm getting the movie companies right. Concord New Horizons, the movie company that Roger Corman has, was doing this B movie thing. They asked us to do a song called "Nothing Happens Till It Happens to You," and you know, we recorded it. It kind of like sounded a little bit like, you know, little John Syke guitar in the background and me running on a field at Pepperdine where they did MASH. So MASH was basically film where we were filming. You know what I mean? We had it for a day or 2 or something like that. And but that line that it says they're getting a video out of that, it was just a line for the movie. We weren't getting shit. We were in the movie, and and the movie was a movie, and that was it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
How
was just
funny.
part of the storyline. But if you look, when the director's telling, when the assistant to the AD is telling the director that, if you look in the background, you see a guy going like that. That's RoboCop. Not RoboCop. I mean, that's Liquid guy. You know, the guy that turns metal liquid with Terminator guy.
Oh,
He's the
Robert
guy.
Patchett.
I don't know his name, but if you look at it, you'll recognize him, and then you'll recognize the guy taking notes with doing the calculator with the big glasses. So a lot of people were coming out and became super successful. Those two guys became amazingly successful in the movie business. They did a lot of film, and he's still alive. The one guy, both of them are still alive. It was cool.
Yeah, it's funny, and even in your music videos, you have Ron Jeremy and Jack Russell and Sam Kinison. It looks like he's playing guitar in the video. Is that was he really?
Yeah,
doing
he
that?
is. Well, it was an all-star jam night, and it was at a place called Spice, which was on Hollywood Boulevard in La Brea. A big fucking place to go. But in the back of the club, there was a VIP area that had glass, so you couldn't get in there unless you were a VIP or you knew somebody back there that would let you in, or you were a hot girl ready to come in. But they threw a big party. It was actually ran by a guy named Steve Sarduccio, and Slim from the Stray Cats, I think, was involved at that time. Putting these jams together. So so all those people that you saw there was just regulars. I mean, one night we did a show there playing, and you had Tom Jones and Billy Idol dressed in white leather singing fucking music, rock songs.
Yeah, how
so I
crazy.
would grab people. I'm not known for being shy. I would grab. I say, hey man, listen, can we do that? Hell yeah, fuck yeah, let's go. You know what I mean? Can you imagine if I would have just been in a corner going, oh gee, I don't know, I would have never gotten the footage.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have fit your personality anyway. But what a fun video! And you talk about it. This was just shot on Super 16 or whatever, low budget. But this is the one that MTV decides to play.
That's right. That is correct, because we really didn't have a whole lot of money. I think the whole video cost us like $300-400 because it was just a big ass handheld camera. And David Bellino at the time, the guy that was doing the filming, was having to do everything himself, hold it, push the button, and take it to develop and all that. So it was really, we didn't have a budget for it. We just decided to say, fuck it, man. Let's just bring the camera. Who don't have any lights? Fuck it. Just bring the camera and get what you can get. I mean, if you look back at silent films and films from back in the day, they really didn't have a whole lot of lighting. So I knew that if I even brought that camera in there, being that it's film, whatever comes in through that lens, it's going to glare. It's going to create a glare. It's going to create some sort of distorted imaging. I'm not going to need any software to do that. The camera, at the time did it on its own. You just need to know what to do. And that's how it came out. And sure enough, VH1 picked it up and MTV picked it up. And for us was, wow. We were like, what? We didn't even know that was going to be like that, and it was very simple video, not, nothing fancy.
Yeah.
I didn't get stuck in debt with any label, at least.
Yeah. So
you're going to pay that video for the next fucking 5 years.
Well, the rest of your life in some of these bands. Some of these bands.
Some people still have tabs. Yeah.
Yeah, still owe their money. So you guys go through a lot, and I know you're watching all these other bands make it, and it's a hard thing. This is 1990.
That was supposed to be London, the way it is and the way you see it. The deal was that once this thing came out, the president of the record company, Karl Walterbach, the German the main office, and Bruce Kirkland, who was the president of Noise in New York at that time, decided that they didn't want to drag the luggage of London. Think about it, way back when. They didn't want to use the London name. They wanted to change it. and they wanted to call it Dupree's because they thought Dupree's was a better name than dragging the name London around, you know. And for me, it was very difficult because I was happy with the London album the way it was.
Right.
But it wasn't my idea, and it created a lot of tension with the drummer and the guitar player. Not so much Brian, the bass player, because you know Brian knows, you know, our relationship is tight, and you know he didn't have to, you know, really question it. But if he did, he never told me. But I noticed that it caused a whole lot of problems on the tour. And basically, I think because of the name change, it caused a whole lot of drama, and really we just detonated in the middle of the East Coast somewhere. You know what I mean? And but it wasn't supposed to be Dupree's. My solo album was supposed to be London, Playa del Rock. I came up with the name Playa del Rock, and we all loved it. The band liked it. The guys liked it. You know. Brian and I were really the guys who were doing this. Yeah, there you go. Shot by John Scarpati. Just great, you know, picture done in down in Palmdale, down by the desert.
Is there anything
but
different?
other than that, you know,
is there anything different? Is there anything different about these records besides the name change? The art?
Not on this album, no.
Yeah. So all they did is
that's the exact photo the way it is.
Yeah. So they just took London off and put the Priest on, but same record.
Yeah, they just moved the name. It's the same font. If you notice, it's exactly the same font. Nothing else changed.
Yeah.
But
and so different
the logo was the thing, you know. The logo had to be changed, you know. And that was done. That logo was hand done. I mean, hand painted by an artist named Robert Califoot. And so that was a little pain in the ass to redo because it was not cheap. But yeah, Playa del Rock was our best album. Noise Records sold more albums than any of the other artists with this album. But, you know, we never really got any recognition for that. But we sold more than any of Halloween, Mordred, Creator, all those guys when they were at this period, in this period of time.
Yeah, it's
we're doing really good. We were playing. We had the most added single on Z-Rock satellite radio there with Mad Max Hammer. They were pounding the shit out of it in the beginning of satellite radio because, you know, Z-Rock was the only radio that had satellite. So they were hitting, you know, Seattle. They were hitting Texas. Was hitting like New Orleans, and just like a bunch of scattered towns. You know, it was great for us. It helped us a whole lot.
And
we were really happy.
And what happened, Nadir? I know that's the big question.
What happened? The party
what
was
went wrong?
What with this album? What went wrong in the tour was basically I think there was a bit of the partying, a bit of what was going on with the drummer and with the keyboard player and with other sources that were traveling with us, who were pretty heavy duty. And we just had a lot of shit happening on the road. I mean, we got jumped at a bar, just pulling into the venue. They're almost waiting for us. Once we got in there, we got attacked by a club of guys, two brothers who had a bunch of people there, and we literally had to leave Topeka, Kansas at that point. The police were not helping us, you know. So we had things that were going on. We had another situation in New Mexico. We had our guitars stolen. You know what I mean? They went into the bus and they stole our guitars. And it was just on and on and on. Everywhere we went, something was going down, man. And at the end, I think it's just self-destruct. You know, the drummer went one way and the keyboard player went another way and the guitar player went another way. And I ended up staying with the crew in the truck. And I was the last to go. And I, you know, basically made it up with my suitcase and a jacket.
You were going
down.
Made
it alive, though.
Yes. That's
it was grueling back then. It wasn't comfy like we have it now.
What do you do in the years to come? Right after that, yeah.
Well, right after that, I got in a band. I got in a funk band, a large 10-piece band. So I started doing funk, and I was doing places like Lava Lee and the Valley, and where it was like a very chosen crowd that goes in there. I was doing that, and then I was also in Phoenix playing in a band with a guy named Jim Keeler, an excellent guitar player. He was in Surgical Steel, and so we were doing songs together, and we were working on stuff. But I was also working on solo songs for me. So I was doing that band there and flying in on Southwest at $19 to LA and do the funk thing. And then eventually I got out of that funk band, and I was offered a job to work for a company called Second Vision New Media to work as project director for the Rolling Stones Voodoo Lounge CD-ROM. And that changed my life.
Which is
So
incredible.
I stopped everything to go work for the Stones.
Did you know anything about CD-ROMs at the time?
Well, what I did know is that we had the opportunity to do a music title, and music is easy for me to do, and I know what it takes to to do a storyline and and edit and do all that kind of simple things. I thought they were, and so I took it on. First as an assistant, and I moved on. Eventually, became the project director for this thing, and I did it for a year and a half. So we were taking little screens like this, tiny screens for multimedia. I don't know if you ever saw the Peter Gabriel CD-ROM or the Residents. They were the top at the time. And they had little screens, and you can watch videos on these little 1-inch by 1-inch things. So what we did was break all of that, and we hired the best in the world. We had Macromedia director, and we had GTE Interactive Media, the phone company guys. We had an amazing lab, and we started doing compression. So we were doing a lot of video compression, and we were able to bring that screen to this fucking big. And for us at that time, we were like groundbreakers. You understand? We were like doing things that nobody else was doing with music titles, not video games, not anything like that. But to make it even better, we added a interactive factor where you can click on the characters and it would speak to you, welcome you, and show you the inside of this mansion, the Voodoo Lounge, and you were able to go into places, and there would be interactivity with Ronnie or with Charlie, and things like that. And for that time, it was very innovative to have that happen.
Yeah.
You can move to floors. You can move in floors, look around. Remember, this is 1994. Okay?
Way ahead of its time.
Yeah, so the internet was not there yet. We weren't even there yet. We were working on that. It was actually, remember, everything had to have a driver. You buy something, there's a fucking driver that had to come with it, just so you can launch that, or a driver incorporated to the game. So there was a lot of things that were not there yet, but we were able to make it simpler and make things bigger yet interactive, and you would be able to get an experience that no other CD-ROM had. And we had, screensavers added to it. Screensavers were a big deal, but you created the screensaver just by, click and drag. Very, very really cool stuff.
Yeah.
At least at that time.
And
the
to be
Stones loved it. I had to go to all the towns, wherever they were at, and they wanted me to come down. I had to go down there, set up a hotel, a suite, and have multi-screens and bring in all the footage of all the shit. So I had to bring beta camera players, digital tape players, multi-screen setups, mixing board, and they would be able to come in from their own floor suites, Intercontinental or the Ritz-Carlton or wherever they were staying, and they would come in to go see and me demo them what I've done and what they can see of the green screens with the characters, because there was a lot of characters in green screen. So it was a lot of work. I did a lot of work to go do these things, so they're able to approve it, because what they didn't want, it was to hire somebody who might have been one of those guys with the pencil pocket protector, and the glasses, and oh my God, I'm a big fan of the Rolling Stones, and you know what I mean? They needed that rock and roll guy, and that's how I ended up working in. I mean, I interviewed Keith. I did the blues interviews with him, and that was fucking. It wasn't planned, and they just threw me at it to go. You're gonna do it. So it was, you know, it was an opportunity. It was a job. So you know, I didn't drink, I didn't party, I didn't do nothing. I was just so focused on not fucking things up in any way and being right on top of them, because each one of them were really different to deal with as a stone. You know, you know, in order for you to have Keith and Mick in a room to impress, it has to be, you know, something very important, and or a news company, you know, that they know, or it could be as simple as an annoying sound, and they can easily just walk out on you. You know what I mean? So it was really, you know, a learning experience.
Yeah, but you're on the road with the Rolling Stones, so it's not such a bad not a bad break to have.
No, yeah, you're on the road with the Rolling Stones, and you're staying where the Rolling Stones stay at.
Yeah, and so it's not a bad thing. You know, all these years you're plowing away trying to burn that damn flag, and you know, maybe it's
They were
nice.
amazing.
Yeah, nice to be with somebody else. So,
Well, I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
the Rolling Stones. You know, I wasn't a fan of the Stones, and I think I've mentioned this on interviews before, until I worked for them, and I got to hang out with Mick and Ronnie out. We went out one night in Bourbon Street, and you know, it was just, you couldn't even sit for more than a half hour in a place. You know what I mean? And the restaurants, they have to control the tables because people were sending $100 bills and autographs. They wanted autographs on the bills, and anywhere you went, you know, they would, you know, we went to the Maiden Voyage, which is a strip joint and down in New Orleans with Ronnie, Mick, Ronnie's wife at the time, and myself and my partner, Tony. And all I know is they saw Mick, he went up to the top floor, and it was a packed floor, and all the women went upstairs and left all the men lying downstairs. Not one chick stayed down there. They all went upstairs to go see Mick Jagger. So, you know, when I see bands copping attitudes, guys, when you go out and they get all like huffy puffy, you know, and you work for the Rolling Stones, and you go, man, you just not it, bro. You know, it's not, you're not it. Be humble.
Yeah, absolutely. You never did give up on music, though. You do still record. You've brought London back in different versions several times. There is such a nostalgia for that time between the cruises and the festivals, and now with the metal people who are seeing the metal years for the first time, younger people seeing this music.
Sure.
You are keeping that London sort of legacy alive. I think people enjoy seeing it, and for some reliving it.
Well, you know, after this Rolling Stone thing, I got into the Latin market, so I cut an album with Matt Sorum on drums, and I had Chuck Wright, Lanny Cordola, Teddy Andriadis. I did an amazingly great album, and I had Bernard Fowler sing in it in Mexico City while the Rolling Stones were in Mexico. So that was a Ronnie Wood song, "You Always Wanted More Than I Could Give You, Where's My Gun?" which is a great song that he wrote with Bernard Fowler. But he had put that on an album called Slide on This, so I took it and I translated it in Spanish, and I, you know, recorded it and made a solo album, and finally the album gets to see the light of day. It's hard to see because of the glare, but here it is. Here's the back of it, and I'll hand you one. Just send me your address and I'll ship you one out. But so it's called Nadir, Voces en la Noche. It's called Voices in the Night. So a lot of great players you're going to recognize. I got Mike Varney in there playing guitar too.
That's great that you guys were able to stay in touch after all that time with, you know, with London.
Yes. London has been you know, busy, even though it doesn't seem like it is, you know, because we ended up going and recording another album, you know.
Yeah, you didn't stop. There may be years in between. I'm just showing your solo record. It's
here it is.
Small here, but
Call That Girl.
And that's the London record. Hold on. So I got the solo record.
This is the new London Call That Girl studio album right here. And this is the London Live which is recorded in Nashville, Tennessee, during our trip down there to play. We were the first hard rock band ever to play at the Grand Ole Opry. I don't know if you guys knew that, but London played there.
It's amazing. Yeah, not place
like,
known.
Y'all sure y'all were supposed to be
here? Let's.
It was great, man. I couldn't fucking believe the stage. I was like, what?
Let's take a look at
cool.
Call That. Here's Call That.
The haters are out there going, how the fuck did they get on there?
That's right. Here's Call That Girl. And this is,
that's
people can find this, right?
Yeah, man, that's a great album.
Yeah.
What was that?
People can find this wherever music is streamed, and right?
Yeah, you can get it on Spotify. You can get them on iTunes. You can get it on Amazon too. It's everywhere. You know, this is the only album that I have right now on Spotify because my fan base is really into CDs. You know what I mean? So CDs have been really good for me. This COVID thing and all that's been happening, and Spotify has that album now. But you know, I do have physical copies of it too. So
yeah,
I also have you know some vinyl.
I'm going to put a link in the description so if people are interested, they can click on it and they can purchase this these items. You know, from you.
They're all there. Yes.
They can support. You got to support these bands. And then also, and a lot of people discovering some of this for the first time. As we said, there's people hearing the legacy, the movie The Dirt, and all that stuff. The guys who were there before you, the Nikki Sixxes and all these stories, they've kind of helped make the legacy of the band.
Well, you know, Nikki Sixx started the band with Lizzy Gray, so you would think, you know, there would be more to it. But, you know, he has mentioned the band. And he put it in The Dirt. You know, I thought that was cool. You know, I didn't really think anything was going to come out of it. So it does help a little bit.
Did
you
Nikki
know,
Sixx ever see
we
London?
appreciate every single bit we get.
Did Nikki Sixx ever come see London when you guys were working it?
I don't think so. No, you know, the funny part is that we paid the Sunset Boulevard Music Festival years back. And they were inducting Motley Crue, and we were both on the same bill.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're way up here, big, all glossy, and we're like down here. But there was a lot of bands, but you know, we were down here. It was part of the event. It was because they closed Sunset Boulevard. It had multiple stages, and we were playing on the whiskey stage. So that was kind of cool. You know, he must have seen that.
Fitting.
Can't be.
Yeah. Full circle. He must have looked at it and said, wait a second. Yeah. Very fitting.
Yeah,
so, Nadir, what does the future hold?
Well, right now, I'm just waiting for this fucking year to get through, man. I like to get some gigs. You know, I don't have an agent and I don't have a manager. So for me, you know, getting gigs through all this COVID thing and all that, it's been, you know, it's really like, I don't know, man, what's going on. But I didn't want to get the shot, and I didn't want to go anywhere where they were going to require it anymore and all that. So I was waiting for things to blow, you know?
Yeah.
Blow by. But, you know, I want to play live, and I want to do another album, and hopefully I'll come back to Vegas and record some, you know, some drums, or maybe do them here. I don't know. But you know, I'm ready to play. I'm getting a little antsy. It's been a while, and
where are you living
back on stage? Well, we're back and forth. Right now, I'm here in Baja, Mexico.
Mm-hmm. It's got to be nice.
I'm here. Yeah, well, I'm at the beach. You know, it's here. I'll give you a little view of it if you want to see if we don't get disconnected.
Here we go.
Here. Okay, can you see out here?
Wow, not a bad way to wake up.
Right, look. This is it.
How great. Yeah.
So that's what's happening, man. And then,
Not
you
a
know, I'm here
bad
at the
way to wake
studio. I
up.
have a
Nadir.
full setup here. We have an Airbnb out here too that we do, and so, and I'm also doing real estate. So it's been cool. It's been really laid back. I don't like how, you know, I don't like to be stressing out a lot with shit and living. You know, every time I go to the States, it's just some shit going down all the time now.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Well,
being by the beach is better for the heart.
yeah, better for the heart, better for the mind, probably too. Uh, hopefully, Nader, I'll see you here in Vegas again soon, and hopefully, we'll see you out. Hopefully, people watching will reach out because it'd be nice to see you at some of these festivals. You
That'll
know,
be great.
people want.
I'm looking for a drummer.
Well, maybe we'll find you a drummer too. But people want
Yeah.
the nostalgia. You know, they want that, and you can still bring that and bring new music as well.
Yes, we can, and we're looking forward to playing. Right now, for me, it's just like I said, this year getting through, hopefully the next year safely and healthy, and then see if we can get back on the groove. And you know, I do plan to come down to Vegas. I like to go down there to the range at American Shooters. So I need to go over there and hang out for a bit, and maybe we can get together and shoot the shit.
That would be great, Nader. I really appreciate you. I know you tell these stories so many times, but I appreciate you sharing them with my audience, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you for having me. And hit us up at londontheband.net or depriest.com.
Perfect. We'll have that link in the description, and thank you everyone for watching.